Hi everyone, Peter Salemi here. I want to share with you a couple of stories. I'm at home right now. I want to share a couple of stories with you before the Sabbath begins. Um, there's a couple of stories that I tweeted out on our account you could read for yourself from Business Insider and Financial Times that talks about how the European allies now are starting to abandon the alliance with the United States. And that even Angela Merkel is saying that Germany must put on a more important leadership role when it comes to Europe. And they are starting to abandon their alliance with the United States of America, i.e., NATO. So the alliance is beginning to crumble. And as we've been saying for 20 years now, NATO is going to break apart. The EU is going to break apart. And Angela Merkel, she had just had an interview with Financial Times, and she said that Brexit is a warning to the EU. And pretty much, as Dr. Steve Turley said in his video about this, that it's little too late. I mean, too little too late, because now that Brexit has started, which the UK is going to leave the EU January 31st in a couple of weeks, that once the UK leaves, it's just going to start a domino effect, and the EU is pretty much finished. So I just want to quote to you a couple of these articles, and from the Business Insider and from Financial Times. Now, notice what the Business Insider here says. It says the United States' main allies are abandoning Trump as his threats to the world leaders backfire. President Donald Trump's threats to allies are backfiring as European leaders speak openly about loosening their alliance with the U.S. And then it goes on to say, I'll just give you the highlights here. President Donald Trump's decision to assassinate Iranian Major General Qasem Soleimani has exposed a growing rift between the U.S. and its historically closest allies in Europe. The attack was met with a remarkable level of criticism by European leaders. Wonder why? Why would they attack Donald Trump for assassinating a man who's a terrorist? Has American blood on his hands, European blood on his hands, continuing this just poking and probing at the United States constantly. They had other attacks that were planned against the United States embassies and so on, and yet the European leaders are taking Iran's side. Well, when I speak of European leaders, I'm speaking mainly of Merkel and Macron. And of course, these two people are, globalists, and I think the nationalist populists in their countries side more with Donald Trump than they do with their current leaders. And when you look at Macron and the problems he's having in his country, and Merkel, she's resigning. I'm surprised these two people are still leading their countries, but they still are. I believe that the nation itself, not the leaders, but the nation itself, the nationalist populists, I think, side more with Donald Trump than they do with these leaders. But they are in charge, and they're loosening the alliance with the United States. The UK threatened to cut back on its long-standing defense alliance with Trump. That's NATO. And Germany suggested openly that the importance of its relationship with the U.S. was declining. Trump responded by threatening European leaders with a new trade war if they remained committed to the 2015 Iranian nuclear deal. Yet rather than bring U.S. allies into line, Trump's threat merely highlighted the declining importance that many European leaders now place in the transatlantic alliance. That's NATO. And here's how Trump's international allies are increasingly abandoning the president as his administration alienates them. Then it talks about how they're doing it. And there was one quote I wanted to get to, what Angela Merkel says, that regardless if it's Trump or anybody else, Germany wants to break away from its alliance with the United States. And here it says, Germany warns that Europe's alliance with the U.S. is crumbling. And it says here, and in recent days, Chancellor Angela Merkel spoke openly about the declining importance of Europe's alignment with the U.S. There's been a shift, she told the Financial Times, adding, the United States' focus on Europe is declining. That will be the case under any president. So not just Donald Trump, but any president. Now I want to go to another one here just to highlight these points. Financial Times, Angela Merkel. It says Germany's Merkel warns EU. Brexit is a wake-up call. And then it just has a few quotes. It says that the German leader mentioned that the Brexit is a wake-up call for the European Union that pushes the region to respond by upping its game. Brexit is a wake-up call for the EU. Europe must respond by upping its game, becoming attractive, innovative, creative, a good place for research and education. She just doesn't get it. She just doesn't get it. She doesn't see that it's not about that. It's about people retaining their culture, their history, their religion, and it's about this heavy immigration, this invasion that's happening. That's what it's all about. But she doesn't see that. She says we must have a creative good place for research and education, and it's got nothing to do with that. It says I believe that chips should be manufactured in the European Union, that Europe should have its own hyperscalers, and that it should be possible to produce battery cells. She just doesn't get it. She says the United States' focus on Europe is declining. That will be the case under any president. We in Europe, and especially Germany, need to take on more responsibility. So those are the two articles that we tweeted on our Twitter account. It's saying that the EU is in trouble, that NATO is in trouble, alliances are loosening. We're starting to see people wanting to break away from the United States. And we have been saying for 20 years now, Daniel, the 11th chapter, verse 45, is going to occur. And it says that NATO is going to break apart. Jeremiah, the 30th chapter, verse 14, says the same thing. All your allies have forgotten you. They care nothing for you. It says in Daniel, the 11th chapter, verse 45, that that's the king of the north, NATO, the president of the United States, the potter's clay phase of Daniel 2, it says he shall come to his end and none shall help him. The Article 5 of the Charter of NATO. They will abandon the United States. They will not execute the Article 5 of the Charter, that if you attack one of us, you attack us all. The BICOG has been saying it for 20 years, and now we're starting to see more and more. As the days and weeks and months go by, we're starting to see more and more the alliance, beginning to crack, till eventually NATO and the EU will fall. And when that happens, then will come the final resurrection of what the Bible calls the beast power that will be headed by Germany. The Bible plainly says that the Assyrian is going to head this beast, and the Assyrian, modern-day Assyria, is Germany and Austria. So it'll either be an Austrian or a German, it doesn't matter, it's the same race. They will lead a 10-nation combine, possibly called a United States of Europe. So prophecy is marching on. Prophecy is happening, ladies and gentlemen, and I just wanted to share these two articles with you before the Sabbath begins. I hope everybody has a wonderful Sabbath day, and friends, I'll see you here next time on the Watchman program.